Welcome to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Coram. I'm your host today, and I have as a guest Beth Shrader. Beth, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Beth works with the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition in town. And but before we get into that stuff which we want to talk about, we like to start our shows by you telling us about yourself. So Beth, tell us about yourself and how you came to the area, or maybe you've been here all your life, who knows?
My husband, Kevin, and I moved to Westminster 5 years ago this July from New Jersey, where I had worked in nonprofit management for about 15 years. We moved with our 9 Alaskan Malamute sled dogs to a lovely home on 13 acres and right by Kernhattan. And I've been working with the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition for 4 years, and I commute to Brattleboro because I like to live and work in different communities. I think that it's important that we have a chance to get away from our work environment sometimes. My husband and I own a business, All Seasons Tree Service, out of Westminster. So in addition to working full-time as the director of the coalition, I'm what we call the CFO of our small little business. And it's been really a great experience. Working in Brattleboro I've met so many fabulous people, and having a business in Westminster area that covers all of Windham County, we've made so many friends and clients. It's been an awesome experience and a great 5 years. We've really enjoyed ourselves.
Oh, good. And tell us a little bit about these sled dogs. Do you ever want to do the Iditarod, or a fan of the Iditarod?
Well, my husband, Kevin, has actually been racing sled dogs for over 30 years. So when I met him, he had, I think, probably about 20 dogs. And he had entered races all over the Northeast at that time. The sport has changed a lot. Unfortunately, speed is really important now, where years ago it was more like the original use of the dogs, which was to carry freight from point to point. I mean, that's what sled dogs originally were for. The Inuits and the natives used them to move cargo, other like animals or whatever they need from village to village. And that's what our dogs are bred for. Alaskan Malamutes are bred to move freight. Nowadays, the races are more speed races. And so we don't enter those races because our dogs aren't really qualified to do that. But you'll see us, people know us around the community because they'll see us running the old railroad beds in Walpole, or up in Green Mountain National Forest. We run our dogs. So now we do it mostly for recreation, just for the love of being with the dogs and being outside in the winter. So we don't really race anymore.
Well, you must just really have had a great time. You must have had a great time this past winter with all the snow.
We did. And being in the tree care business, Kevin has a lot more flexibility in the winter, so he was able to take the dogs out every day and train and run, and it was a great winter for the dogs. And we have a puppy, Avalanche, who's now 9 months old. So this winter we had an opportunity. It was fun to have a young puppy to just take out into the woods, take on the trail, snowshoe with her. So it was a great winter to have a puppy too, because it was just fun to have a new dog to sort of experiment with. She never got behind the sled because she was too young, but she was able to, experience a full winter as a puppy, which doesn't often happen nowadays. So it was a great winter for us. Thanks for asking.
Oh, good. Now, you are the director of the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition. Tell us about this. Where you're located and so forth?
Our offices are located at the Marlboro College Technology Center on the 3rd floor. Not much of a place to visit, but people are always welcome to come by and pick up information in our office. There's also information down in the lobby of the Marlboro Tech Center about the coalition. The coalition has been around since 1992 in one form or another. The original grant and the original organization of the coalition was in 1992. It's evolved over the years, and we have grown to be an organization with stable funding and a full-time staff of 2 people, plus part-time facilitators and consultants.
And what are the objectives of this organization? What's your main goal?
Well, the mission of the organization is to provide a comprehensive prevention plan for the community. And by community, I mean the Windham Southeast area, which is really the supervisory union coverage area: Putney, Dummerston, Vernon, Guilford, and Brattleboro. And our mission is to provide a comprehensive prevention program for the community. And comprehensive meaning not only the drugs and alcohol that we deal with, but also comprehensive, meaning working with the schools, the family, community, parents, other youth organizations, and making sure that prevention is a part of every one of those arenas or stakeholders. So, and our mission is really guided by the work that needs to be done in the community, and the mission has been the same since 1992 when the coalition started. So we have, we have our work cut out for us.
Okay, so it's been going since 1992. You're funded, I would imagine, through state grants, and what other
Well,
funding
we're
sources?
fortunate. We're funded through several funding sources. We have a federal grant, what's called the Drug-Free Community Support Grant. We're in year 5 of a 5-year grant from the federal government. It's been a great opportunity to have stable funding for 5 years, and it's allowed the coalition to really do some fabulous work. We do receive, actually right now we're receiving 2 state grants. We're finishing up what they call New Directions, federal or state grant from the Department of Health, and that's the alcohol and drug unit that we work with. And then we've recently, which has been really exciting for the coalition members and for the staff, recently been receiving a new state grant called a Strategic Prevention Framework Grant. And this is a planning grant, and this grant has allowed us to spend the last 6 months looking at underage drinking, binge drinking, and marijuana use in our community, and developing a long-range plan to address those issues. So that's been exciting, but it's also been a great deal of work. We also receive some funding through the Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union. They're partners with us in offering some parent education. So we're fortunate that the school district is helping to provide funding for some of our parenting programs. So we manage multiple funding streams, and we've been very fortunate and very successful in that area.
And what, explain to us a little bit more, maybe since it's been going on since 1992. That's 12, what is that, 15 years?
Right.
There must be some data of when you started, that obviously people didn't start something without knowing that there was a problem to
Right.
be addressed. And has that addressing it? What does addressing mean? The numbers reduce as far as people having a problem, or you are just treating people after they decide that they would just want to indulge in alcohol and drugs?
Well, we're purely prevention. So the spectrum with drug use, is prevention, early intervention, treatment, and recovery. And so there's a spectrum around drugs and alcohol. We're the prevention spectrum. So we don't do any of those other parts of the work. So we just do prevention. But
So that means education not to do this.
exactly.
Okay.
Right. To not even harm reduction. It's true prevention, meaning stopping young people and others from using drugs and alcohol. As far as data goes, we're really very fortunate. We've been able to show progress with our work. And beginning, I believe, in 1999, and it could have been sooner, this particular supervisory union has participated in a survey called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or the YRBS, as we like to talk about the jargon. And what that survey does is, every 2 years, it measures through self-reported surveys of young people, 8th through 12th grade, their behavioral uses, so risk behaviors. It's suicide prevention, sexual activity, all kinds of things, but it really gives us a lot of data about drug and alcohol and tobacco use. And so what we've been able to do is track the data beginning, I go back to 99 because that's the data that I have most accessible, and compare every 2 years when this data comes out what we've accomplished. And we have definitely accomplished a lot. Our numbers have definitely improved. Less and less young people are using drugs and alcohol every year. The tobacco data has been very significant, as you know. There's been a lot of money pumped into tobacco prevention work. But we've definitely seen progress in this community. Having said that, there's always more work to be done, because every year, we begin tracking in 8th grade. We have our data from 8th grade, but every year
There's a new 8th grade.
There's a new 8th grade, and there's a new younger, and young people, because of the media, are exposed to more information about drugs and alcohol. younger and younger. And so our work tends to start younger and younger as time goes by. So we do have data to show we have made progress. And a lot of the federal government work that we've been tracking is what they call age of onset, when young people first use marijuana or alcohol. And we have been really successful in delaying that onset. And I can't say that BAPC is responsible for those changes, because lots of people in this community are partners in our work, and the school does an awesome job, and there's a lot of things going on in the community. But what we have seen is that we've been able to delay the onset of drug and alcohol use. Year after year, we've been able to do that. And with fighting a tide of the media and lots of YouTube and MySpace and all those new things that come along. So we've been lucky. We have had an impact on that work. So
when the youth, I've heard of this survey thing, I've known, there's always the question is, how sincere do you think kids are in reporting their use or exaggerating their use or whatever?
Right.
And that's always been an issue. And then you juxtaposition what you've been saying to reports that we have a large heroin problem in town. Now, maybe the heroin problem doesn't affect the youth that much. I don't know.
Right.
So can you speak to any of those issues?
Sure. Well, first of all, the survey. Luckily for you and I and the rest of us out there who are not statisticians, people who develop these surveys put in questions, and they ask the same question twice, and they have ways of telling whether the young people are just going down and checking at, A, B, A, B, A, B, C, D, and so they have a way of telling that. And also they put questions in there, the same question twice. And if the student doesn't answer the same question the same way, they perhaps may throw out the survey. And when we get the YRBS every year, this question comes up. And in the data, there's a summary of how they conduct the survey, and they basically tell us how they put these other questions in to tell if the youth are just going down and checking. So I'm very confident with our data. We don't have the same information about adults in our community. The federal government, the CDC, does a household survey, but because Vermont's so small, the percentage of people from Vermont who answer the question is very small. So we don't have as much data on adult use. And you're right, anecdotally, we hear about heroin being a problem in this community. The data does not show that the young people are engaging in heroin use at a high rate. So it's not necessarily a problem here. The problems in our community are alcohol and marijuana. Those are the two drugs that come up over and over again as being a problem. And our numbers are pretty high for both of those. So while heroin is a problem, what we try to do in prevention, and this is our strategy and has been a strategy for as long as I've been in the work and for a long time, is if we give young people and their parents the skills to combat the drug use, in general, those skills apply to every drug. So in other words, if we teach parents how to set boundaries, how to have clear expectations, how to monitor their kids' use, that is around all drugs. It's not just for alcohol and marijuana. If parents, if the parenting skills are such that it helps prevent drug use, it's all drug use, not just one particular drug. So our work doesn't say, oh, let's just work on alcohol or heroin or even methamphetamines, which was in the news for a long time. It's let's give the kids and the parents the skills to refuse the drugs, and if we do that, it'll apply to all drugs and all alcohol. And a lot of other risk behaviors, we hope. So that's the work that we do.
So I assume skills, parenting skills, you run classes?
We do. We have been extremely successful because we in our parent education programs. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done. In the last 5 years, or almost 5 years now, we've trained over 300 families through our parent education program. And 300 families in a community of this size is really a significant number.
It is, yes.
We have 2 parenting programs. The one that we've been doing the longest is called Guiding Good Choices. It's for parents of 4th through 8th graders. Now, 4th graders seem a little young for their parents to be going through parent education around drugs and alcohol, but we know that the earlier you get to the kids and their parents, the longer the skills can be utilized. And that program is a parent education program, but it also includes a week session. One of the 5 weeks, we offer the class for 5 weeks. One of the sessions is session where the kids come in to the class with their parents and they learn refusal skills. They learn ways to, to avoid situations, number one, where they're offered drugs and alcohol, and number two, they're taught how to say no, but without using your friends. So it's not the, just say no kind of philosophy. It's giving kids skills how to refuse drugs and alcohol and refuse risky behaviors without losing their friends or without compromising themselves in situations.
Well, to get to that place where you refuse alcohol or so forth, you have to, in your mindset and with those kids, they have to have bought into the idea that they want to do that. So there must be some education beforehand about the dangers and what this does to their body, and anecdotal stuff about if a person starts this, where they end up. And is that kind of stuff go on first?
It's really interesting that you mentioned this, because it's been a sort of a mind shift for a lot of us in prevention around what do you tell kids to get them to refuse to use drugs and alcohol and tobacco. And we, our way of thinking as adults, and I'll call it adultism, is to say, your liver will erode, you'll get a drunk driving charge, all these things. But for young people, for kids, youth and teens, their consequences need to be immediate. Okay, so if you tell
40
them,
years out,
right, if you're going to get cirrhosis of the liver or lung cancer, it's not going to do it. Okay, so instead, I know this sounds sort of, sort of a little crazy, but for instance, with tobacco, what boy is going to want to kiss you if you smell like a smokestack? If that kind of like immediate kind of things, it makes your hair smell, whatever. Those kind of things have a bigger impact on kids than saying you're going to get cirrhosis of the liver. But the biggest deterrent is the change in relationship between their parents and themselves or adults that they care about. A reason a lot of kids give for not using is because they don't want to let their parents down.
So that those advertisements that tell us that the parent is really the best anecdote are true.
It's true. It is so true. Peers mean a lot to kids, and their decisions are based often on peer pressure. But a lot of kids don't want to disappoint their parents. Another thing that's really important is when young people have goals and have things that they want to achieve in their lives, that's also a deterrent. So, for instance, I was working with two high school students who now are in college, and we were sitting down. We were supposed to be doing some exercise as part of a group activity, but I was just really curious because both of these young people had chosen not to use. And I asked them, I said, why have you chosen to not use drugs and alcohol? You're in a school where there's lots of pressure, your lives are pressure filled. And both of them had goals that they wanted to achieve. So the young man wanted to go to medical school. And he said, if I were to risk using drugs and alcohol, I would risk the chance of ever getting into medical school, my grades, the sports I play, the goals that I have for myself. And the young woman said the same thing. She says, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a role model. I have a goal. And I know that if I were to ever use drugs and alcohol, it would interfere with my goal. So what we're trying to help young people to do, is not you're going to get, your cirrhosis of the liver when you're 55. Yeah. Is to really explain consequences that are immediate.
And I think the school, with the contract that athletics, students who engage in athletics sign, there are real consequences, and the school follows through on these kinds of things. And we've seen this happen over and over again to people who've not believe that would happen, or they would get caught maybe, or something like that.
Right. And, the school is an important player in the prevention work that we're doing, and we partner a lot with the schools on a lot of different things. And I think that there's always work to be done, and I think, recently with the arrest of the young people at the prom for underage drinking, it reminds us that, our work is never done, and that we have work to do. And it reinvigorates the opportunities that we have to work together, all of us as a community, with the school to support young people. And, the one thing that it's not a rite of passage to drink at the prom. It's not a rite of passage to drink at the graduation. Those aren't rites of passage. They're choices that young people make. And if we condone that kind of behavior around this time of year, then we sort of condone that rite of passage. And that's not really true. in most cases. And the school, struggles like parents do with providing support for young people so that they make good choices.
But if you don't make a good choice, the consequences are
right.
clear.
Yes, and that's what we ask families to do too. In our Guiding Good Choices class, we ask parents to set clear consequences with their kids, boundaries and consequences, and have discussions and family meetings and communicate with your kids. And like the school communicates with the athletes, that's really important. And consequences are important. And as hard as it is to, when those things happen, to make those consequences happen.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about, which leads into, basically what you're doing, you're talking about drug and alcohol prevention, but really what you're doing is developing good parenting skills. That's really the heart.
It is. In that work that we do, it is really what we're working on. And it's been a fascinating experience since we've been offering the Guiding Good Choices class, because we've been very successful in engaging parents in the class. All we do, I'll be honest, number one, we offer an incentive. We pay parents a stipend, a $65 stipend. If they complete all 5 weeks of the course, they get a stipend. Now, for most parents, that's not the true incentive, but it does help with babysitting and nowadays with gas. So we do, and that's almost like a reward for becoming engaged in the process. The second parenting class we offer is called Supporting School Success, and that's for parents of K to 3. And the reason we started that class was because in our other class, parents were saying, I wish I had parent education sooner. I wish I had an opportunity to learn sooner. So we pursued a class for parents of younger children. And this particular class is totally different. We really don't talk about drugs and alcohol. What we do is we teach parents how to support their children in a learning environment. Again, the school's been a partner with us in this process, but what the research shows, and this is how really we've become involved, is kids who do well in school are more likely to resist drugs and alcohol. So by teaching parents and kids how to be successful in school, we're really giving them prevention. And this class is fun. Again, it's a 5-week class, and while the parents are learning, the kids are in a kids camp. Down the hall or in the next room or wherever, and they're learning similar skills. So for instance, the basics of what it means to be a good learner, how to set a time to sit down and do your work. Really simple things that
Organizational
stuff. Right, exactly. And we've been doing that now for 2 years, and we've been really successful. Most classes have a waiting list. We can't even accommodate all the parents that want to sign up for that class. But it's skill building. It's total skill building. I mean, we're honest. It's not necessarily teaching them about drugs and alcohol, but it's skill building, and that's what works. That's what the research shows. These are both research-based, evidence-based programs.
So a lot of the stuff you do is getting around this, what you want to have happen, sort of on side routes or around the door, instead of hitting it, the objective, don't drink, don't smoke, head on. You basically build people's self-awareness, their relationship with their parents and child and so forth.
We do.
Which leads to that.
Right, we do, but we also do some head-on stuff. Like, for instance, we work closely with a local SAD chapter, Students Against Destructive Decisions. Marianne Spofford, who's the SAP at the high school, she is the advisor to that group. So we work with that group and support that group's work as well. But also, we have a pretty active media campaign, and that's sort of the in-the-face kind of stuff. Twice a month, we run pretty strong ads in the Reformer, talking about, depending on the time of the year, some of the issues that are around. We also run a monthly column in the newspaper, in the Reformer, called Matters of Substance. And again, we tackle head-on issues. We support all the alcohol and drug education in the schools. So we really do a lot of hands-on stuff. However, we've been extremely successful in working with parents, and that has to do with really good staff. Sue Graff, who's our program assistant, she is a parent of 2 young children, so she does an awesome job of marketing our programs and talking to parents, and we have fabulous facilitators. Our parent education program would not be as successful if we didn't have fabulous facilitators who are all parents, who are all great presenters and come from all walks of life, but are trained by us and by the curriculum organization to do the work.
So these facilitators are volunteers?
No,
No.
they're part of our staff.
Part of
They're
your staff.
consultants
Okay, okay.
who we pay, and we pay them well because we're paying them for the experience and the energy and the commitment they make to the program. They give, when they are working with us, they give everything they have, and they work with the parents, and they provide an incredible resource for parents, and we provide the support to make that happen. And it's a team effort, but they are fabulous people and with great experience. And every time we evaluate, we do evaluation of the program, not only of the presenters, or facilitators, but the entire program. And always our evaluations thank our facilitators for the work that they've done. So we know that it's working.
And where do the parents come from all walks of life, or do they come from?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We are constantly amazed at the diversity of parents who participate in our programs. We have some parents who, and this is not our doing, but who are strongly suggested by their caseworkers or someone that they're working with to attend parent education. In our case, everybody's there voluntarily. But some programs that we work with strongly suggest parents attend parent education, either to get their children back from custody or to improve their family dynamics. So we do get recommended people to participate. But really, from our perspective, it's totally self-selected. And that's what makes, the diversity makes the class work. It is parents from all over the community who come together, and the thing they have in common, Lynn, is they care about their children and they want to be better parents. So that goal in common makes the class work no matter what the dynamics are. We never, although we serve Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union geographically, we never turn parents away. So we've gotten parents from as far away as Londonderry and as far away as Turners Falls, Mass. Who come to our program. So we really have a diverse group of parents. The people who are in a socioeconomic group where the stipend helps them, that works for them. It gets parents there. For some parents, they don't want the stipend. They tell us, please don't give me the stipend.
Just donate.
Just donate it back to the program. So we really have a diverse group of people, and I think that makes the program successful because part of the program is what the parents bring to the program and share with each other. And oftentimes they want to stay together as a group and support each other afterwards.
Oh, that's nice.
Which blows me away. Every time I hear it, I'm just blown away by that, and I'm really proud that we can, make that happen. And they do it totally informally. We don't facilitate it. They just stick together and become friends.
And what number can we reach you at down there? What number can people call?
The Coalition's phone number is 802-257-2175. And we also have a website which has tons of great information for youth and parents. And it's actually our name. It's www.brattleboroughareapreventioncoalition.org.
Okay.
And that's a great resource for parents. I encourage parents and kids to check it out anytime.
Okay, great. And we thank you for sharing with us. This is, I'm sure, a lot of information people didn't know about, and we'll get to know where you are and what you do. And so thank you for sharing today.
And thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And we thank you for watching. You've been watching Neighbor to Neighbor. My name is Lynn Corm. I've been here with Beth Shrader from the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition. And we'll see you on our next show. Have a good day.